Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to wrap a cabochon or a stone with macrame using the tassel netting technique. And this is what it looks like, or what it can look like. This is what mine looks like. So you have your bail at the top and then your netting around your stone. In my case I've just used a marble just to show that you can use many different types and shapes and sizes of stones that you want to wrap and capture. And then just the tassel on the bottom there with some beads on it. You can obviously make it look however you want to. Use the materials that you want to. And this technique, I've done a video previously on a netting technique. Looks like this. Some different examples. Again, just to show you the different sizes and shapes. It's not specific to just one size and shape of stone. It can really be used for anything. As you can see, this is quite irregular, but you can still capture it. This is just them without the tassel. I already have a tutorial on those. And this is quite a uniform one, but a different shape than say the marble, which is also uniform of course. But it's just to show you that it can work for really any size and shape of stone that you want to do. So this is what I'm going to be showing you how to do today. So if you want to learn how to do it with the tassel on, then keep watching. So these are the things that I'm going to use to demonstrate with. Now the first thing here is what I'm going to be wrapping with my macrame. So this is just a marble that I'm using in a nice decent size. It's a glass one with a nice pattern on it. But I'm just going to be demonstrating with this. It's just to show you can use different types of shapes and sizes of whatever you're using. So this is a marble. You can use irregular size stones as well if you want to. It's completely up to you. This is just what I'm going to be using. And then this is a 0.4mm Eslon. I'm just using a black colour because I thought it would go nicely against the marble so you can see the patterning. And it's just a really strong cord, so it's going to hold nicely on its own, but you can really use any cord or thread that you want to. And then finally here for my tassel at the end, I'm going to use some 3mm hematite in a blue colour. You can obviously again use whatever beads that you want to for that. So let's get it all together and let's get started. So then what I've done first of all is cut my cord ready that I'm going to use, and what I have here is 4 lengths of my Eslon, and I've just made them about 80 centimeters long. Again, this is just what I'm going to be using. If you're using a larger stone, you might need to make them longer, or you can make them shorter if you're using a smaller one as well. But this is just what I'm going to be using. And then for this one, what I'm actually going to do is start out with making the bail. So in this case I'm working on my mini macrame board here, just for easiness. It has these notches, makes it easy to work with, but you can also use pins or whatever you have. So I'm just going to have all these, I have all my ends together so they're equal like that. And then what I'm just going to do is put the ends together just to roughly find the middle, just so I know where to start. And then up here where I keep hold of, that's the middle. Then what I'm just going to do is place this into my board in the notches up here, and then just pull the middle down to roughly the middle of the board as well. It's just so I know roughly where the middle is, so we can make sure we have equal lengths once we've done with the bail. So like this. And then what I'm going to do as well is separate them out, because we're going to use 2 of these lengths to make the bail with. So put them to the side, 1 to each side, and then the 2 in the middle here we're going to then place on the bottom of the board, so fasten it in. So these 2 in the middle are going to be the holding cords that we're going to be working with, and what I'm going to use to make this bail is just regular square knots. So if you're unfamiliar with basic macrame knots, I do have a video that shows how to do some basic knots that might be helpful. But otherwise what I'm going to do is start with one side, so one of the cords on one of the sides here, bring that over the holding cords, then take the other loose one from the other side, bring it over that one, and then underneath everything in the middle and pull it up through the loop. So just like this, and then just pull it so it sits about the middle of the cords there. And the other side, bring the opposite side over, again take the loose one over that, and then underneath everything in the middle and up through the loop. And then for right now, the first knot there is still loose, but what I'm just going to do is tighten that one first. It's just for the very first knot here until you tighten them, and then tighten the other half of it, just like that. So there we have the very first square knot. So what I'm just going to do basically, continue like this, make my square knots in the exactly same way, first half of the second one, the other side, to make the other half of it. And this is how I'm going to be building up the bail. So what I want to do is just make a section of square knots here. How long you make it will determine how large the bail is going to be. So you can maybe make it 4 to 5 centimeters. It really depends on the look that you want. So I've now made my section of square knots here. So what I can do is take this off the board, and then we can also just have a look at, see what size bail that's going to be, because you can always add more square knots in if you want it to be larger. So like this, and then what I'm going to do is bend it, fold it like this so you get a loop, and that's going to be the bail. So if you're happy, then what we need to do is fasten these two open ends together, so it's going to be a nice and secure bail. We can then continue into wrapping the stone as well. So to do that and just bring all the cords together there, what I'm going to do is just tie a simple overhand knot by using all the lengths here. Then make sure it tightens right below where both ends of my square knots meet. So just take the ends and then make a simple overhand knot with all of them together as one. And just take your time making sure that we're tightening all the cords evenly here. Push it all the way up, so you can make sure to push these two ends together, and then have the knot sit right below there, just like that. Then once you're happy, tighten it nicely and securely, because then the two ends have been collected together there, and we basically have a finished bail there ready to use. So this is now nice and secure. What we have to do now is start making the actual netting. So to do that, what we need to do now is basically work in pairs. So work with 2 lengths of cord at a time. So we have them all currently coming out from the same knot there. So what I'm going to do is start separating them out. So just take 2 cords that are right next to each other, separate them out from the rest, and then what I'm going to do is tie another overhand knot. All we're going to be doing with this making the netting is tie overhand knots basically. So it's nice and simple, just like that. Pull it through, and then I'm going to push this all the way up again, as close as you can get, because we're going to be basically making layers of netting, building it up as we go. So again, make sure you pull both cords evenly, push it all the way up like that, and you can always go in and give each cord separately a tug as well, just to make sure it's nice and tightened. Moving on, so those 2 are done. Go around, take the next 2 that you bump into that are right next to each other, so these 2, separate them out from the rest. Again, make a regular overhand knot, just like that, and then tighten this all the way up as well. Just make sure they're tightened evenly. So just like before, I just need to move it up a bit before I tighten it. There we go. All the way up just like this. Basically sitting right next to the other one that we just made. Tug on each cord individually. Go around, do the same with the rest. So just pick out 2 cords at a time here, all the way around. Take the next 2 and do the same with the last 2 as well. So I've now done the same thing with all the cords here, going all the way around, and then what I've ended up with is 4 groups where I have 2 cords coming out from each tiny little knot that we made, just like that. So these are the beginning knots to make the netting with. So what we need to do now is start making the first level of the actual netting. So just pick out any cords here. We just start from one place, and we're going to move all the way around anyway, so it doesn't matter where you start. Then what we need to do is to begin with work with 2 pairs each here. So each knot that we made have 2 cords coming out from it. So we need to choose 2 that are right next to each other and then separate them out. So that means you'll probably have one going naturally more towards one side. So the one that's going towards the other knot that you made, so naturally coming more towards each other like that, those are the 2 you want to use. So one from each original knot that you just made, and then bring those 2 together, because this is then going to be the first level of our netting. So we still have 1 cord from each of those original knots going just putting them away so we don't mix them up and bring them into it. Then what we need to do now is make another overhand knot a bit further down, so we have an opening here that's going to create the netting. So what I'm going to do is kind of roughly keep hold of that spot, and then just again make a regular overhand knot. Get your ends through, and then just try and make sure you tighten them evenly. And looking at it again from the same angle, we now have the knot there. Then push it up gently, try and tighten the cords evenly, and then what you want to do basically is place it where you want, how large you want that netting to be. It's going to be determined on where you place the knots, so you can make it quite tight or you can make it more open. That's completely up to you, but then tighten that when it's placed where you want it to. Again, I always like to go in and tug on each cord individually to make sure it's nice and tight, just like that. So that's the first one. We need to go all the way around and do the same thing. So just go around in a circle. Take then the one you have left from one of the original knots there, move on to the one, take one from the one that's right next to it as well, that's naturally coming towards that side. So we can slowly start to see it's going to end up from the top coming out a bit like this once we've made all the netting all the way around. So take these two, do exactly the same thing. Make a regular overhand knot, push it up, and then what I prefer to do is try and make sure that all my netting is roughly even all the way around, as even as it can be. So I want this knot to end up in roughly the same place as that one. So just make sure when you tighten it, it's going to end up in roughly the same distance from the original knots. So something like this. You can see that. It looks pretty even. So once you're happy with that, tighten it all the way. And again, just give a tug on them individually. Move around to the next ones. So we're always working in pairs, as you can see. Grab the single one out of the one you just used, and grab one out of the next knot, bring them together, and again make a regular overhand knot. Always working with two cords as if they were one really. Push that knot up so we get roughly the same distance as the previous ones, so we can get a nice and even netting. There we go. Tighten that and individually. All we have left now is the last two cords that we haven't used in this level. Take them, bring them together, make a regular overhand knot with those as well. Exactly the same thing. Bring it up, and you can use all the others as a guide as well to see where to place this one. So we get roughly the same distance, just like that. As you can see, going around, starting to look a bit like something. Tighten that and pull them individually. And then this is the first level of our netting. If I hold it out like this and slowly start to see something, and then basically what we need to do now is just continue like this to make the next level as well. So now to do that, all we really need to do is continue the exact same thing that we just did, just with the next level. So we keep building kind of level after level, building up the netting as we go. So go on to the next one again, start wherever you want to, because we need to go all the way around and do it on all of them. Pick out two cords. One cord from the pair that you just made a knot with, and then a cord from the pair next to it that you have a knot as well. So what we need to do is take one single cord from each and bring them together just like before. Take the other two out of the way, bring those together, hold it roughly, and then again make a simple regular overhand knot and tighten it. And again, when you tighten this, decide where you want it to be, so how open you want your netting to be. And when you're happy with how it's going to sit, tighten it nicely and then tug on each one individually, just like before. So that's the first one. In the next level, as you can see, it almost makes little diamond shapes. Moving on to the next one. So the one left out of one of the knots that you just used, and then one out of the knot right next to that. Almost make sure you go to the knots right next to each other, so you don't accidentally take one from the opposite side, for instance, because then you won't be able to use it and put anything within it. But you can always undo it if you do that by mistake. So take those two, bring them together, take everything out of the way so we don't accidentally mix them up. Do a regular overhand knot on that. And pull your cords together, bring it all the way up. And again, I'm going to be using the first knot that I made on this level as a guide to where I'm going to place the rest. So I'm looking at it while I'm tightening the other one gently, pushing that up so it sits right where I want it to. So like that. It's about the same place. And I'm happy with that. I'm going to tighten it and then tugging them individually. So again, this is all you do really. You want to move all the way around. Take the single one you got left of that and one out of the very next one. So you keep doing this all the way around, and when you've done that and brought the last two together as well, then that's your second level of your netting. So I've now gone all the way around again for this second layer, and we can slowly start to see the netting forming properly now, like that. And then what we also want to do along the way as we're building it is reference back to whatever stone it is that we're using. Like I said, for this one I'm just using the marble just to show like a round shape, because you can really use this technique for anything, any form of shape or size. But just to reference back to make sure that we're heading in the right direction. So it's going to look something like this from the top. You can see that netting forming around it. So what we need to do is then obviously take that into account when we make the next level, to kind of also decide how big we need the next level to be, because you might most likely will have to make them a bit larger as you get to the wider point, and then we're going to make them smaller again down here. But just keep that in account. Take that into account when you're comparing to your piece. But all we need to do now is just basically continue doing the exact same thing, building up this netting in the same way, just referencing back to the stone to decide how large. And that's all there really is to it. Keep building this netting as you go. Same way, making your regular overhand knots. Taking one cord from each previous knot and bringing them together. So you can see this one I'm going to make a bit bigger, because when I looked compared to the stone I could tell that I needed to make it bigger in order for it to be able to fit around the widest point of the stone. So this is just something you have to work out regarding compared to what you're using. Give a tug. Move on to the next one. And then just keep doing this. Then once you've built up the whole netting that covers the whole stone, we get to the bottom of it basically, because this is then obviously the top of the stone. So when we get to the bottom of the stone, then what I'm going to do is show you how we're going to finish it off. So I've now continued making my netting there, and then if I hold it up against and reference back to the stone, the marble that I'm using, put it in, see what it looks like, and if it fits, because you can always undo things and redo them if you need to. But put it in there, bring all the cords together at the bottom just so it can give a nice representation of what it looks like. It's going to look something like this, and it's going to be set in there nice and securely. So what I can see now is I've got past the widest point, so all these that I've made around here fit perfectly. So now what we need to do is start making them a bit smaller again, so obviously you can graduate a bit inwards, just like up here. So we just continue the exact same way, picking up two, and then I know I've got to make it a little bit smaller. So I now made my first two ones on this level, where I'm making them a bit smaller again. So just to make sure, I'm going to put it back in. Into my netting there, if I can get it in. Like that, all the way. Grab hold of all the lengths and bring them together. And if you see how it sits and if you're happy with it. And then down here, just keep an eye, check what it looks like, and if you're happy and think it looks nice and you're getting the sizing right, now what you might have to do as well now is start making your knots. The last few you have to do here on this level, you might have to do while the stone is in there, because if you imagine, once you make this level complete, it's going to have singed in and be smaller, so you won't actually be able to fit the stone in. So it's just something to remember, to think about. So it can be a little bit fiddly, but it'll still work fine. Again, make it overhand knot. Bring it all the way up. Push it evenly. And then again, I'm using the others for reference to see where I'm placing my knot. And I can also now, with the stone in there, see how it's going to look while I'm actually doing it. Something like this. So there. And you can just push it out or in, but obviously you also don't want to do too much, so you might just start where you've made. Although it is not, so it's going to hold nicely. But the final one here, I definitely need to keep the stone in there, because otherwise I won't be able to get it in after I've made the last one on this level. So bring the last two ones together, push the knot up, make sure it sits nicely, and then tighten it exactly where you want it to be. So it can just be a little bit fiddly to get it in just the right place, but just take your time and it'll work fine. See, one of them is a little bit looser. There we go. Tighten that. And again, I'm going to tug on each one. And then that's this level complete. Bring them all together at the bottom. You can see it's kind of almost forming a bit of a star shape, just with 4 points all the way around there. Obviously this way you can use more or less cords as well, depending on the stone, the shape and the size. For this one, the 4 original cords that we started working with works perfectly. If you have a bigger one, or maybe more an irregular one, you might want to use more, so you can add in an extra cord. The technique will be exactly the same. But basically all we have to do, this level is pretty much the last one, I would say. So all we want to do now is collect all these together on the bottom. Basically just like the top, so the exact same principle. And again, what I'm just going to do is put them all together, do a regular overhand knot, and pull them through. And just try and get them all working as one if you can. And tighten them evenly. And then all you want to do is just push this knot right up to the very base of the stone, where we're bringing all these cords together. Just like that. And I always like to go just tighten every single cord individually as well. It just helps neaten up if you have any loose ones among the knot, but also it makes it nice and give it that extra tightness. So just like this, go through all of them. And then they're all brought together on the bottom there. You can see it looks very similar to the top as well, and it has a nice look to it. And it's going to hang like that. So basically the netting part is done now. The stone is in there nice and securely, and just like I said, I'm using a round marble for this, but it's the exact same technique for any other kind or shape that you're using. All that's left to do now really is make the tassel on the bottom. Now this part is really quite simple. All you do is take one cord at a time here, and then I just put one bead on that cord. You can obviously play around with this completely design wise. You can put different beads on, you can put more than one as well, it's completely up to you. I'm just putting one on each here, and obviously use whatever beads you want. Then all you do with this cord that I just put a bead onto, again just tie a regular overhand knot. So really this is a lot of just regular overhand knots, and obviously the knot will then decide how long your tassel is going to be. So how long down, how far down the bead is going to hang. So you decide that as you're tightening the knot. I want it just a little bit further up actually. So just place the knot wherever you want to. And then obviously what you just want to make sure to do as well is, depending on your beads, the hole, you might need to make more than one knot there. I think this would hold, but I always prefer to just make at least one more. So basically make the second knot on top of that first one to make it just a bigger knot, just to make sure that the bead won't be able to slip through and fall off. So like that. Then the bead is going to, basically the knot is going to be a stopper for the bead, and it's going to sit like that. So you want to do that with all of them. You can obviously make them about the same length, or you can make them different lengths as well. That's all down to design, what you want to do. But you just fill up each cord with your beads and then make your knots. So now that you've put all your beads on all the lengths here and you've made your knots as well, all that's left to do is finish off these ends. Now what you can do is, if you're using a cord that you can't singe with a lighter or something, you can always put a bit of glue on that knot and then cut it off once it's dried. But what I'm going to do is, if you have a cord that's synthetic, so say a nylon cord or something, you can also cut it down just like this, leave about 1 millimeter or 2, and then what I'm going to do is take a lighter, just obviously be careful because it's going to be a flame, it's going to be hot, and just gently singe down that very end and then just seal it in place. And that gives a nice seal and also makes it very seamless, and you're not using any glue for this. Just keep doing that all the way around, leaving your little tail just like that, and then it's that one that you're singeing down. So you're not burning the knot or anything, it's just that little tiny tail that you're singeing down. But remember, be careful with using the flame and that. So just go around doing that on all of them. Then once you've done that, you're basically going to be done. So once you've finished off all your ends like that, then this is basically a finished piece and it's ready to wear. So this is your bail, the first thing that we made, and then the netting around the stone, then your little tassel on the bottom. And obviously you can make it however you want to. This is just the materials that I chose to use for this. So that's how you make this. Quite nice and simple technique. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful as well. And thank you very much for watching. Hello everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this square knot weave macrame bracelet. And it looks like this. So I've just chosen to work with a black and a rainbow coloured cord, and that'll give you this effect, but obviously you can use whatever colours you want to use, but you can achieve a really nice effect with this. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. So all I'm going to be using to make this bracelet is some cord, and the cord that I'm working with here is